Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. You are now listening to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow!
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Adam McChesney, and I want to thank you for being here today. If you're listening, please be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We would love for you to share this on social media by tagging me and our guests. And this way we can get this content out to more people. Today, we have another great episode lined up for you. Excited to really dig in and get to know this person a little bit better and discuss his entrepreneurial journey. He and I have known each other for a little bit online. We are in a few of the same mastermind groups and have gotten to know each other over the past few months, and he's now also a client of ours. He probably doesn't know this, but he's actually one of the people that inspired me to get into running again after not doing it for close to 10 years. Now I'm only doing a 10K in April, which is really nothing compared to what he's done. He's ran 50 miles recently, and I said that correctly, 50 miles. He is just a go-getter across the board. This is someone that genuinely cares for other people and is always working on improving himself. Today's guest is Brent Knott. He is the owner at Design It Wraps and is currently working on a new business called Torq CRM. Brent, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Dude, really excited. And yeah, you definitely pushed me to go sign up for something. I'm like, I have to get something on the calendar. I have to do this. And your story is just incredible. I listened to your story on the Real Business Owners podcast, and obviously you and I have talked pretty frequently since, but I'm really excited to get to know you better. But kind of wanted to start there, the 50-mile run, man. Where did that come from?
Accident. I mean, the real root of it was I started to become entitled, with myself, my family, my business, everything. And so I kind of had let myself go. I've lived my entire life by if I'm not going to do it 1,000%, I'm not going to do it at all. Mm-hmm. So tinkering with fitness wasn't in my wheelhouse, but that's how you build habits, right? So doing 1% better every day, it's had been 1,000% better immediately. Yeah. That's just my persona. And that I had to kill that version of myself because it got me pretty far. Mm. But I hit that cap and, it was causing issues with home. It was causing, issues with growth. I think at the time I was pretty decent, but I think if I would have continued down that same plane, you would have seen a downward trajectory most likely. So it really just kind of started with that. And essentially made some major errors and just decided to hold myself accountable to it and prove to myself, re-earn my own personal integrity back. Mm. And then June, hanging out with Trevor. Don't do that. Hanging out with Trevor at the fire pit, and we just finished 75 hard. And he's like, I heard you're going to do it again. And I was going to do it with another friend of mine who has a pretty large podcast in the rap industry. Actually, the Duvers. Yeah. So Vinyl Images in Missouri. And he has a podcast called Rap IQ. And so we were doing a Rap IQ 75 hard. And I was kind of late because they were starting 10 days before me, but I was like, screw it, I'm going to do it with these guys too. I'm already, may as well keep going. Right. Mm-hmm. And Trevor's like, don't do 75 hard again. And I just thought it was weird. That doesn't seem normal to come out of Trevor's mouth if you know him. Yeah. And essentially what he did is he told me to take all the dopamine out of it. Take the checking the boxes off and just truly do it for yourself, whatever that is, and call it your own heart. Mm. And then he asked me, what do I hate doing? And I said, running. That's your workout, bro. And so, yeah. And, me, I'm trying to, build my own personal image too with these people. And, you have, I think it was the book Pitch Anything. They talk about star power. And how you can get attention. And if you can't compete on money, then you can compete in hustle or whatever. There's something that you can do to get eyes on you. Right. And so I'm sitting here thinking he told me to do something. How do I build a credibility and accountability with him? So I went and did the very thing he told me to do, at 230 pounds. And I just dropped, from 290 basically. And so I was like, well, I'm not much of a runner. I don't look like a runner. So let's go run. And I just decided to do a marathon, and that was the original roots of it. And was supposed to do it with kale, actually. And I was like, I don't know how my body's going to react. So I went and did one by myself on the side of the road. And then I did it. And then a hurricane came and I couldn't do it with kale. And then another thing happened and I couldn't do it with kale because I tried twice to do it with kale. So don't sign up for marathons with kale.
Yeah, that's lesson.
And so I just said, screw it. Like, I've already done a marathon. So let's do 50. And that was pretty much it.
Man, what a story. I mean, I love what I think a lot of people can resonate with that 75 hard story. I know I can, because I've done 75 hard only through once. And I've tried a couple other times and gotten like 40 or 50 days in and just gotten so burnt out. And I know that there's a reason why I finished it the first time. And I know that there's a lot of reasons behind why people do it. But it goes to the point of like your heart. Like, what is going to be your new level of standard? And how do you consistently meet that every single time? And so very similar, like I listened to your podcast actually twice with them talking about like, what do you hate doing in the running? And then like, it just clicked. I saw a bunch of other people starting to run. And I'm like, man, I need to do this because this is going to push me outside of my comfort zone. And I know I don't want to do it. And it gets you to that new level. So that's amazing, man. Excited to learn more about, your entrepreneurial story, because I also heard that on that podcast and it's very fascinating. So tell everybody a little bit about, where you're at right now, what you're doing, but more importantly, how you got started and the transition to where you're at today.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, I'll keep it short since I've gone through that a couple of times. Maybe I'll try to hit on some different points, but basically me and my wife, we were working for a guy that wasn't that great in regards to character traits and integrity and stuff. And I'd kind of seen through that finally. It took a little while. And when the veil lifted, I was like, hey, we need to get out of here. This guy's going to mess us over if he ever had the opportunity. So at the time, I'd only wrapped my Mazda Miata and a F-150 for a large donk shop, or like the large wheel shop, and definitely wasn't a great output of quality. And a friend of mine worked at a Porsche shop that the guy had a racing series, International GT and the Stuttgart Cup, and they ran with the HSR series. And so I went down, wrapped a Porsche, and did about 6 more after that. And in that process of doing those 6 Porsches with his friends, we lived at a hotel the entire time, didn't realize there was, monthly rate. So we paid day rate for every single day. Wow. It's expensive. And, essentially ended up going into business with that guy, and he ended up being a business dad. So he's my rich dad, if you will. No, there's no knock at my dad, but my dad's very square and likes military and like all those things. And that's not really my persona. I like, a little bit of dare and stuff in my life and living on the edge. And so he's more of a risk taker, and that's just his style. He's an serial entrepreneur. And so he coached me up in life, and we did business together for right at about 7 years. Taught me a lot. And frankly, his lessons were so grand that I only have just started to absorb them. Like, I couldn't comprehend. He was at such a level that I could not comprehend his lessons. Like, he would just say, I've rented that movie, and I couldn't understand why. And he was trying to like keep me from hitting the wall. But he's like, hey, you need to do this. I rented that movie. And like, I would like, oh no, I'm smarter than you and all that stuff. Meanwhile, he's done, massive companies for many more digits than I ever have. So, bottom out, did I don't know much about evaluations, but based on what I knew at the time, I owed him probably, $250,000 to buy this company, because he had 70%. And, it could have been less. I don't know. We didn't do a real evaluation, but the point is he sold that company to me, 70% of the business back for $25. And, he's like, you've done plenty, you've made me plenty of money. And you've also, never sandbagged. You did it to the best of your ability, whatever that may have been. And so just make sure to, if you ever have the opportunity to help somebody else in your life, to do so. And so we still, we're still connected. I actually met with him last week, but we meet once a month or so. He still mentors me here and there and beats me up.
Dude,
So.
that's a phenomenal story. And when I heard it the first time, I'm like, man, everything happens obviously for a reason. There's different cycles and different people that come in and out of our lives based on what's supposed to happen. And so what was like the biggest thing that you took away? I know you mentioned that like you're still learning stuff that he taught you because you obviously couldn't comprehend it at the time, which I think is very powerful that you can see that. But like, what was like the number one thing that, whether it's personal or business, that he taught you throughout the course of time?
That you can be successful doing the right thing. That's actually what his realtor told me. Is like, he's very hard to work for, and a lot of people don't stay around him because he's the most fundamental person I've ever met. Like, you go into his office, check in on him, and he will chew you out.
Yeah.
Because he hears one little thing. He's a bulldog, like, and it got him where he's at, but it's because it all comes from love. Like, he's holding you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, do you hear what you just said? You're making up an excuse. Like, it's like literally like Andy Frisella yelling at you with Goggins combined, but in business form. Like, it's crazy. And, he didn't have other people to help him get there. He did it by himself. So he really, truly understands like what he's saying. But his realtor told me, stay close to that guy, learn everything you can. I've never met somebody that did right by everybody, always, and hold to his true character and make as much money as he has. Yeah.
No, that's powerful. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world, and no surprise at all how successful he was. And it's really cool to hear that story of obviously, transitioning and passing the business completely over to you, which is amazing. So as we transition here, we kind of like to talk about some of the ingredients within you as an entrepreneur that have made you successful. What are 3 key things that have helped you in your journey thus far?
I would say the 3 things that's really helped me the most is overall, like, they're really the same word. So maybe I'll just say both, but grit and resilience is probably the biggest one, because I was the stubborn labor worker. Like, it's such a hard, like, some people's quirk is that they understand finances and all this stuff. Some people's quirk is that they are really skilled with their hands. Other people just sees patterns and can lead people a certain way. Mine was definitely more the technician, and you have to have a lot of grit and resilience if you're going to stick and be a technician, but also run a business.
Oh yeah.
You're not actually running the business. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of pain there, and you hold yourself there. And it's crazy because we kind of self-validate ourselves in that pain that we're actually causing to ourselves. And so unfortunately, you do need grit and resilience until you finally like unlock that part of your brain that says like, hey, I can actually get out of this at any point that I want to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what do you think on the resilient side? Because I think like that's one of the things that entrepreneurs truly struggle with. Like, everybody wants to say that they're resilient, and then like when something hard happens, they end up like crumbling, or they go into a hole. And I was talking with an entrepreneur this morning, and he's just getting started in his journey. And I think, and I had this wrong impression as well. You say, hey, when I get to this level, or when I make this amount of money, like all of my problems will go away. And then you don't realize, and what I told this guy this morning is, hey, you're just trying to solve these problems right now to get you to a quote unquote comfortable spot, but new problems arise. Why do you think people struggle, myself included, for a long time, of like thinking that, okay, once we get here, we don't have to worry about resilience, or we don't have to worry about problems?
I think it's actually the opposite. If anything, there's a really good analogy specific to running. For example, you have to teach your bones how to deal with the impact. So running long distance actually has nothing to do with your muscles. And actually, running long distance, you have to do speed workouts in between because your muscles actually become lazy. You're not working your muscles, you're working your bones. And the impact of constantly hitting your bones makes your bones more dense, able to receive that impact more frequent and for longer periods of time. Same with weightlifting. So you basically become more dense, and that pressure actually compounds as you actually get further along in business. You just have a different relation to it.
Yeah.
And so that's where I've been on that big mental journey with the running, was like, it really, all the pain that you go through, it changes your whole relationship with it, and you look at it differently.
Wow. No, I mean, that makes sense when you talk about it like that, because I've even seen it, and I've only been running now for like 3 weeks, but like consistently, right? But I feel some of those things, and I think as we progress along in business, again, it's not necessarily that you get problems go away. You just get better at handling the situation. You get more accustomed to those things, and it doesn't necessarily wreck you like it would wreck you when you're just trying to get started and grow your business. So that makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, it may also wreck you for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But you get, instead of the whole day, like you're like, okay, let me sit and be my pitiful self for a second. And then, okay, cool, I'm over it. Like
snap in, snap out. Yeah, it's controlling the situation and having the leverage and the knowledge to be able to come out on the other side. So that's awesome. So talk to us a little bit about, because I know we kind of skipped over some of this stuff a little bit, but talk about a little bit more about what you do in your business at Design It Wraps. And then also talk to us a little bit about the CRM that you guys are working on as well.
Yeah, so that's basically where I've dedicated most of my time. Coming out as a technician, come to find out I'm a visionary more than an integrator, but I'm a weirdo where like on the like rocket fuel score, I'm like this. So I actually was really confused. I thought I was an integrator, right?
I would have thought you were too, just by like the way that you operate. Yeah. On
the score, I was 82-72. So, and Thomas Keenan's my coach right now. And he told me, he says, that sucks. And I was like, why? And he goes, because you're a weirdo. Like you actually can do this, but you'll be in the middle of it and you start dreaming and you get ADHD and you stop. You don't finish. You're great at starting things, but you suck at finishing. I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Because that's literally my persona, like entirely. But the last, I would say 6 months, I think I hired my operations manager, who is my mom, but I hired her. She's she's truly an integrator. And awesome. That was back in I think June. And we're past the training. She knows almost all the in and outs for the most part of the company. And she runs the scheduling, everything. So I'm literally in this office, and basically my role now is to fix all the problems that we had of getting all those systems and structures that's in my head that we are operating as on paper, because it's so in my head that I can't even delegate it. Right. Just yet, because it would take away from the work that we have. We have started to delegate more now that I have the good foundation of it. But in doing so, we were using, Monday.com, Trello, and all these softwares. And I was like, man, I really am tired of using this wide gamut of tools. And so, we did pick up the white label of GHL, and I showed it to a good friend of mine, Brad Rapone, and we went in and just freaking went after it. And he took his model for his business. I took mine, and we kind of melded it into what could be a really good structure for the industry. And now we're actually finding out that it's not even industry specific. We're picking up hardscape people. We've picked up a caulking company. What we're really good at is people who can run their businesses off of square foot increments and linear foot increments, because that's what we already operate as. Yeah. So it's a really good understanding, and fundamentally it's all the same. But we took the CRM side, which is your sales side, and then, a lot of agencies, and you know this for a fact because you started off in one specific field and you've kind of grown out, right? Mm-hmm. The way you really separate yourself is become a true service, where it's not, hey, yeah, cool, I can pick up this one thing and do just this one little thing. Yeah. Instead, we're trying to help with the CRM, but now you have to fulfill it. Mm-hmm. And so now we have the full project management side too. And oddly enough, guess what I've been doing this whole time? Sitting in this room, drilling away at our systems and processes. And then one of our customers came along and saw his Monday, and like we combined ours, and like I spoke a vision. He's a 1000% engineer / integrator. So he just like 1 week later built this awesome Monday, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're hired.
That's awesome.
So we just onboarded him where he's even a part of, profit share opportunities and stuff. Like he sees a long-term vision. So, I mean, we're really going after it with long-term goals and game plan.
Dude, that's amazing. And I love like multiple things that you like said there, but I think the biggest thing that most, especially on the CRM side and even in agency side, is like meeting people where they're at and like, hey, like show up and throw up and tell me all of your problems and issues and things like that. And let's combine and put something together that meets all of your needs instead of like trying to fit somebody in a box and being like, okay, hey, you can only play in this box. And if you don't play in this box, like it's not going to work. Yeah. I think that's where people struggle the most. I'm sure you've probably seen that as well.
Oh yeah. Cause even how I do mine very specifically versus the box that we start with is totally different than one of our customers.
Yeah.
But what we've done is, everything's about value. Like what can you really do for people? So taking their money is one thing. That's very easy. But we do a Monday night and a Friday night or Friday day call. So we did that strategically. Monday night is for the entrepreneurs. Friday day is for their staff if they're a big time delegator.
Yep.
And we do a 1 hour call where what is your wins for this week? What are some of your problems that you're having? Are there any glitches with your system? Did you break anything? Do we need to fix it? Do we need to mentor you through this? And so we're doing it weekly proactively as a group setting. And somebody who may not actually ask that question gets problem solved too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I love that. A ton of value, and definitely excited to see this continue to take off, man. That's amazing. So going back to kind of the entrepreneur process, just talking about your entrepreneurial journey as a whole, what are some of like the highest of the highs and some of the lowest of the lows that you've experienced throughout the process so far?
Mine's mostly been highs. And I don't know if that's a perspective thing. Like I don't get down too much. I'm blind faith into things and try not to stay, negative too long, which gets me in trouble too.
Yeah.
But I would say the highest high was so I missed a lot. Like I said, I sacrificed a lot as far as family and even like my wife and stuff like that. But I remember my dad was going overseas and I missed the leaving party. I forget why, but I missed it. Right. And so I didn't go to it. And I remember sending him a check picture where I paid off my house in one payment. And it was it was during it was 2020. We did very well during that year, and we did this huge job for the school district for partitions between lunchrooms. And so we got this massive check, and we went around the team and just, what did you want? What did you want? What did you want? So we were able to pay one guy's debt off. Bought a guy a car. We were able to do all that stuff. And then I actually took that and one lump sum at the end of the year, once I confirmed that we were good with the year, and paid off my house. And I was just like, hey Dad, like, just want you to know I missed a lot. And I'm sorry that I didn't see you off, but like it wasn't in vain. And so I had a 5-year goal to pay off my home, and we met that.
That's amazing.
So that was probably my highest high for sure. I've got a lot of close seconds, which are, team more, not even, I get a lot of stuff out of helping my team hit things.
Yeah.
Now, like there's definitely diminishing returns on money and income and all that stuff. And it starts to become like whatever. But helping other people hit those marks are like truly fulfilling. I definitely get all, choked up and all soft in that regard. I would say a low would definitely be kind of like where I was a little bit after that. Like, it's kind of like when you hit your goal and you think it's about money or whatever, and you don't have something, you don't know what actually motivates you. You kind of get lost. And so I don't really have a defining, very specific moment, but I would say definitely while you're just doing the same thing over and over and every day, and you're like, why the hell am I doing this?
Yeah.
And you hit that tipping point of like, okay, I don't need to do this for me. I need to do it for other people. And And since that's occurred, there's been a lot of pain with it, obviously, because like you're going to pay for it with your time, or you're going to pay for it with money and effort. And like, you have to go suck at being a leader if you're not a natural leader. And you're going to make a ton of mistakes in that regard. So I think that would probably be some of the lows of making some errors when you think you're doing right for people and you're not.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's one thing that a lot of people struggle with is, you know, I thought it was all about me, not necessarily all about the money, but like, what is Adam McChesney doing as an entrepreneur? And then you realize once you start to actually build out a team, obviously going from just yourself to building out a team, like there's a much bigger picture. There's a lot more impact. There's a lot more people in families and just people that are involved in the process. So the impact is just so much more. Like decisions are obviously weighted a lot more because of that. Kind of segueing into this next part here, talking about like the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout your entrepreneurial journey thus far that you would share with a brand new entrepreneur that's looking to save them years worth of mistakes. What would that one lesson be?
I would say really trying to drill down your numbers. I was introduced to that really early. And really having an understanding of your numbers. And I, again, that's kind of what I refer to when I say it took me that many years to understand it. My mentor did a profit and loss every day.
It's a lot.
The administrative power that it would take to do that every day is insane. But understanding them to where, like, you know, a lot of people, especially when they start off, they think they have to discount their rate. They don't know why their rate's even their rate. Why is it your rate? And you know everything around that. And so then you could look somebody in their eye and say, no, sir, I have to do this for this rate. Here's why. I can discount my price, but I can't discount my value. And so I have to stay where I'm at. And so I think if you stay true to your numbers, a lot really opens up because you actually have the capital to hire people when you need to. And so I think it's a really good foundational thing that really solves a lot of problems for people right out the gate, because you're in full survival mode when you first start off. And, you know, we recently had to switch into a survival mode a little bit because of the accelerated growth we had, which was new to me. Like, I didn't have to actually go through that at all. I had unlimited working capital with my mentor, and now it's my money and it's different. Right. Yeah. So you get 3 locations and you got 3 rent checks coming out and you're in the slow season, like it hurts. And so, it's one of those things where your basis gets dwindled and you're not used to having less than that basis. And that's real pressure. Yeah. And so understanding your numbers and making sure that you're working on the right projects, because when you accept one of those jobs for less than, you're almost always going to get a call tomorrow for a job that's a way better client anyway. Like every time. And then you can't take it because you can't fulfill it because you're a one-man show. Like, you didn't hold out for what was true to your values for you as a company and an individual. Yeah.
No, I love what you said there. I can discount what you say. You can discount my price, but I can't discount my value. And that's, I think, something definitely I'm taking away from that. And I'm sure the audience is as well. So kind of wrapping things up here, we'll talk about the distribution. So for us, that's talking about what's next. So obviously you gave us a little bit of insights on obviously the growth within the wrap company, everything that you have going on with the CRM, but talk to us about what's next for you and your companies here in the next year, couple of years down the line.
So I'm definitely working a lot on like my personal brand, where I'm trying, because I need to build a machine. I just made a post today about hiring. Like, what are you doing to attract the people that you want? And with the model that I have, it's not a franchise model. It's more of an internal franchise or entrepreneur system where I take an existing employee and it's like, hey, level 1, you're this, level 2. At level 2, to get to level 3, they have to read a book. Right. And then to get from 3 to 4, they have to read 4 books. And then at level 4, they have to read a book a quarter.
Wow.
Right. To get to level 5. Now, level 5 is whenever I become business partners with you.
Got it. That's really cool.
And so basically level 5, I'm now leveraging my knowledge to help be my mentor to them, essentially, as he was to me, and they can sweat equity their way into equity on a location, and I front all the expenses for that. which Outback, I didn't know this, but Outback Steakhouse does that.
Wow.
Managers that meet certain metrics get a paid for location that's funded by the corporate side of the business.
That's amazing.
And so once I heard that, I was like, okay, cool. I'm not crazy. But the goal is basically to take my rock stars, which is everybody anyway, and if it aligns with their goals, to have them have their own shops and create the same freedoms that I've had for themselves. And then my role then becomes more the coach of teaching technicians how to rid themselves of the technician addiction, and basically, which is going to be the name of my podcast that's coming soon. But basically, ridding that technician addiction and moving more into that leadership position so that you can provide for yourself. I mean, it's the, teach a man to fish thing.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome, man. No, I love that. And I didn't know Outback did that either. And I love that you put that system in place to give people, I think that's something that businesses need to do more of, in whether it's partnering with employees or not, but showing them the way to growth by different metrics. I think selling employees, especially key employees on the vision, is tough for a lot of people. I know I've struggled with that in the past. So really love your analogy with that and kind of what your process that you're going through. So Brent, man, I really appreciate you coming on the episode. This was a great one. I know the audience is going to get a ton of information out of it. So where can people find out about you online, whether it's social links, websites, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's /I am not Brent. So it's KNOTT Brent. Somebody took mine. And then on Facebook, if you just search Brent Knott, there's not many of us. You'll find me. And the company name is Design It Wraps. And that's the same on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. We'll put that all in the show notes. And Brent, thanks again, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, man.
And thank you again to the audience for tuning in to today's podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share our content. Leaving a 5-star review goes a long way. We'll see y'all next week. And remember, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed.
I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow.